here at Trident booth, actually Apex, learning about the Trident system.
We're set up here, Fl Frag swap. Thanks to Josh, Pork Sandwich, for putting this all on. We're with our Diamond Bender at Blue Seas Aquariums over here in Sunrise. We got everything set up. Of course, everybody wants to know more about the Trident. We're a little over a month into release with the public. It's been very well received. Of course, a very common question is, when can I get one? How can I get one? We do have one available today. We're raffling off the unit for sale at the end of the event. You got to just check in with your, preferred platinum diamond dealers. They are going out every day, and they are available online as well. Blue Seas has had a couple come in, and so far, like I said, really well received with the customer base. Give you a quick breakdown on how it works. There's not a lot to do with this unit. It was always designed from the get-go to be a plug and play, set and forget it kind of device. So in terms of initial setup, we've got 3 reagent bottles. It comes with 4. We call it a 30-day supply or a 1-month supply. It should actually last you quite a bit longer than that. Put the 3 bottles in. You have a sample line that goes into the tank. As you can see, we are using this unit here. And then you have another line that goes into the waste container. Power the unit up after you watch the setup video. So you go into your tasks. Everything is set up very easily to the task for the Trident. It self-primes it and starts running tests, automatically scheduled. So in terms of setup and things that you can do with the Trident, hands-on, not a lot. It was kind of the whole idea, was to put it onto your tank and get readings. So I've actually got my tank at home in New York right now that I'm showing here. So I'd actually just switched out my first set of reagents since I've had mine. So even though I work here, I had to wait to get one too. So I understand everybody's sentiment there. You can see I'd actually calibrated about 2-3 days before I went. That's where those little jumps are in there. Calibration procedure is very simple. Comes with a known set of liquid. Take the sample line out of your tank, put it into the known solution. It runs a series of tests. Zeroes the machine out, if you will, and then you put the sample line back in your tank. So it's actually been incredible every time I've been traveling lately to see that my alkalinity number, the value, is actually going down every time I go away. So last time I came home, I'm wondering, is it from not scraping the glass, or is it from the windows and the doors, not being open in my apartment? So I go home, I don't scrape the glass, I open the doors, I act normally, and the alkalinity continued to go down. So there's some sort of correlation between not scraping the glass for 6, 8, 10 days in a row versus when I'm home, I do it every 2 days, so the tank looks clean. The dose is automatically making adjustments to keep those numbers in check. So historically in the past, I would go away and my alkalinity would slowly creep down. I'd come home, you don't know what happened in between, you just know what happened when you left, and you know what happens right now today when you check it. So for now, now everything's changed. I'm able to see these trends, whether I'm home, not home, and Apex is automatically making adjustments to it, real time. So for me, this has been a total game changer. Just as pivotal as getting my first Apex. I've had my Apex, I guess, like 6-7 years. I've had a Trident now for going on 5 months or so. My tank is definitely blossoming as a result of that.
So questions I have on it, because as a new user of this, or just somebody who's wanting to look at it and say, all right, what is it going to do for me? You can tie this in with the dose and say, all right, let's say you find a test that has a low alkalinity, you can go ahead and say, let me set the dose to bump it up.
Correct. So there's 2 ways of doing it. One would be that you can see the trends and you can make the manual changes to the dose profiles yourself. So you can go in there like you have in the past and said, this is what's happening, this is where things are going. Yeah. I want 50 mils instead of 48. We have automatic dosing control, which I can show you probably a little easier over here. So if you were to go into the tasks, all right, and then you scroll down, all the Trident related stuff is all down here. We have it all grouped together. So you'd go to Trident controlled dosing. Pop you up a quick warning here that you've at least been running the Trident for 7 days and that you have a good understanding of what you're about to do.
And this is for you to manually change the dosing and kind of override what it's doing.
This would be if you want to automatically do it. So if you wanted to make the manual changes, I can go back to that real quick. But if you wanted to do it automatic, let's say you want to control your alk, you select the parameter, same as if you wanted to control your heater based on the temperature probe.
Okay.
All right, select the doser that you would be using to do that. So for me, that would be Triton 3A, 3B, technically all four. This would be the name of your dose. You set the level that you want your DKH to be at, and the volume is how many mils per day. All right, and then we also have an automatic option to dose more during the photo period than at night. So you can basically have a bell chart, a bell curve of the dosing, so that you can have a heavier photo period, dosing regimen. Beyond that, I think I've already seen with our user base that's out there, there's so much information that you get from having this frequency of tests as well, that it also adds a lot of validity and credibility to what you're seeing. If you want to control your doser, for example, and you only have one piece of information every day, especially if it's not at exactly the same time every day, that information may be missing a lot of other pieces of the puzzle. So when you have 4 pieces of data like I do on my tank, I get a pretty good 0.2, 0.3 swing in alkalinity from the beginning to the end of the photo period every day. Triton runs the test at exactly the same time every day. Anybody who checks their tank right now, who checks it by hand, if they're off by an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever, that information may not all fall in line because you're not having the same control on the test. So the reagents and the device are designed to be used all the time. So if you don't run the device frequently, you could lose accuracy. It could hamper the productivity of the reliability of the device. So it was never designed from the beginning to periodically check your tank. It's designed to work all the time. With that being said, you're talking about 30 days before you ever have to touch the unit. It's the whole idea. 12 times a year you have to put your hands on the Trident. You think about all the other things in your aquarium that you have to use, something or do some sort of maintenance on periodically. We wanted that to be the opposite with this. So some of the engineering and design features, require that the device works all the time for it to keep that accuracy. I think after anybody has one, that thought process immediately goes out the window because the 4 tests a day are not overkill by any means. A lot of guys actually are running a lot more than 4 tests in the beginning when they first get it. You get very obsessed over the numbers. It's a whole lot of information and a learning, tool that you didn't have before.
Do you think that that's a good point? Obsess over numbers.
Right.
Do you think that that's a good thing, or that's going to be a bad thing for those individuals? Meaning, like, maybe these people really start chasing numbers.
Right. So I think all aquarists want to chase consistency. So if I gave a prezo at Reef Smart, and it was about consistency. And I've probably done something along these lines hundreds of times. And the absolute number is less important than is that number staying steady. Now, if you get a Trident and the numbers are bouncing all over the place, or what you perceive to be bouncing all over the place, well, your tank has been doing great. I suggest no corrective action whatsoever. Now, if you get a Trident and your numbers are bouncing all over the place and your tank is a fighting nightmare, then yes, maybe this has finally, helped you solve your problem. I was explaining when I first got mine that I was actually having alkalinity swings of, 1.4 every single day from me cutting my doser off at 10 o'clock at night and resuming at 3 a.m. That is a problem. That is why my corals are suffering, and I would not have figured that out unless I had stayed up till 3 a.m. and checked my alk. So, is 8.5 the best alkalinity to keep a tank at, or 9.2? No, I don't think any of those things are necessarily the things to obsess over. What's important is that you're able to keep, everything in check, and that day to day, week to week, these numbers remain the same. Corals thrive on consistency. It's always been that way. When I worked at a fish store, a while back, people would bring their water in, and you would be baffled as to how toxic it was, and their tank was alive because it's been toxic for 4 years. So everything has adapted and somehow overcome these boundaries. So I think you can fight the fish tank, or you can run with how the fish tank works. Everybody's tank's different.
That's the hardest thing for new reefers and folks that are intermediate.
Yep.
to not chase a number.
Yep.
Because before I got Apex, I didn't know what my numbers were. I did my test whenever, and I got figures. Now with the Apex, I can see those numbers, and it's more or less in your face, and you want to be like, all right, this guy's doing his numbers here. Let me try to make mine there. Your tank looks beautiful, but you are trying to get to another person's dream or another person's stability.
Correct.
And that's really where we got to come to grips with that. Our tanks are stable.
Absolutely.
Don't touch it.
Yep.
You know, I can look at my numbers. They go up and down, and
you can go after the ideal number and hit it 2 days out of 7, right, in a 7-day stretch, and think that your tank is doing great, and the other 5 days that the number's way off. Or you can be off on the number consistently by 6 to 7 days a week. And I've moved away from doing large volume water changes on a really high frequency because you can see with the ORP Pro, for example, after you do a water change, how long it takes the tank to rebound, to equilibrium. So theoretically, if you're doing a water change every 7 days and your tank takes 36 hours to rebound back to happy, you lose 36 hours of growth. You spend a lot of money on trying to get all this other stuff to make your corals grow faster and all this stuff. And if you're going to take that out of the equation right away, and you're going to cut 20% of your grow, that's really going backwards. Now, I'm not suggesting that you can get away with doing no water changes in any capacity, because eventually things may get out of control, and everybody has their own little way of doing it. But I think being able to mitigate a lot of that stuff and dampen any upflow or downswing in anything is really what's going to help the tank do better over time. So,
that's true.
I think I became a bit of a number chaser for sure when I got the Trident. But I learned a lot about what was happening that, frankly, I didn't know before. I've definitely gotten more alkalinity tests alone in 30 days of having a Trident than I have ever done in my entire life.
So I'm glad that you say that, because you did mention you chased the numbers.
A little bit.
But this helped you understand why your numbers were going up and down and fluctuating.
So I was actually, I had really good timing getting the Trident. Right around Thanksgiving or so of last year, my big corals in my tank really started to take a turn for the worse, and I hadn't changed anything. I haven't added anything to the tank since Indonesia, etc. And the corals got big enough to now create a vacuum of alkalinity in the tank. Now, I had no idea this was happening. I was actually going crazy. I was having the tank paranoia, sending out IceCap OES tests. I was actually checking water. I never checked the water at midnight to 4 in the morning, so I never knew that my alk was actually dipping into the high 6s from the 8s that it was, during the day. I got the Trident. When it gets a test that it doesn't think makes any sense, it retests, and so it was doing this every day at 4 in the morning. So I think something's wrong. Well, it was. There's something wrong with the fish tank. So by me cutting off the doser 2-3 hours before the lights went off and then putting it back on 2 hours later, I'm still having these crazy pH swings. So I didn't just do this for no reason, all right? My pH is always high in my tank. It's hard to probably see there, but right now my pH is between 837 and 850. All right, that's very high, as most people would say. So for me to solve the high pH problem, I stopped dosing halfway through the day. That solved the pH problem. Got away with that for a year and a half, right? All of a sudden, that became a problem. pH wasn't a problem, but the alkalinity was definitely a problem. The second I put the dosers back 24/7, 2 days after I got my Trident, I ran the test every day. Every hour. So I ran 24 tests in a day for 2 days straight, and you can just watch the number go bam. It just tanks. Like, it drops a whole DKH in like 3.5 hours, right? I have a 90-gallon tank. I don't have crazy expensive stuff, but proportionate to the water volume, it was enough to take up everything that was in there. Now, if I had a 500-gallon tank or a calcium reactor or whatever, I probably wouldn't have this issue. But, I have a pretty frail balance of available alk and everything in the water and corals. So they eventually got big enough to cause this problem. I lost a couple, but if I hadn't gotten the Trident at that time, I was definitely disheartened with how the whole thing was going. I was very frustrated. Said I don't want to do an SBS tank again. And I was actually home. I was home quite a bit. I couldn't figure out what the problem was. I've been doing this for a while, but you can be stumped by this kind of stuff. So, I immediately connected the dots. I switched the doser back to 24/7. I still get a little bit of an out swing every day. So let me just get this chart loaded up here. So see if we can get that chart to load. Sorry, we're on a Verizon Jetpack here, so.
Yeah, so one of the problems I'm having when I'm doing my testing, I actually did one a couple days ago, is magnesium salifert.
Yep.
Doing the test on the salifert, it looks like my magnesium is high, but I know that's not right because something's happening.
Meaning in terms of the test kit versus.
Versus the test kit versus what I know I'm doing.
Okay.
As far as replenishing magnesium.
Yeah, I think you could use a whole lot of different test kits and get different results with everything. I think what distinguishes the Trident in general is that it does the same thing every single day. It's a machine. It takes a lot of the user error out. There's also bias, which I hadn't really thought about a lot until Terrence had discussed a couple weeks back, which is, you know, you're doing the test and this is the number you want to hear.
Yeah.
So you may be, you know, tinkering with the test or skewing the results because it makes you feel better about what you're getting.
That is true.
I can tell you, unless I've ever had a problem with the tank, I very rarely checked it because I don't do it every day, and I just don't. I don't have a high degree of confidence in what I'm seeing. So if I checked it and it said the ALK is 7.5 and I go, you know, the tank still looks okay, I wouldn't change anything to what I was doing because I don't trust 7.5 is accurate. With calcium and magnesium even, it was always the same. They're very long time consuming procedures, and I was already aggravated to be doing them in the first place. I can tell you with a high degree of confidence that I make changes to this all the time when I'm not home now, and I have very little concerns to what's going on. I trust it a whole lot better than I trusted myself with the hand check, you know, hand testing kit of any type. So, yeah, it's a total game changer on that. But I mean, you can see I'm still having some alkalinity swing a little bit, if you want to call it a swing. So again, with the chasing numbers thing, do I want this fixed at 8.5 all day, or is 8.27 to 8.55 every day? Is that okay? So for me, things are doing great like this. I know that my tank is thriving right now, so this is what I want to see. You know, to try to create that line to be totally flat, I don't know that that's beneficial. And I don't think anybody really knows that yet.
No, and I think that's where hobbyists, we as hobbyists have the issue, because like I said, when I got my Apex, I would see this graph.
Right.
You would see the ups and downs and ups and downs. And when folks say, oh, you need stability, you're thinking, okay, I need a flat line.
Flat line.
Not realizing that your tank's going to ebb and flow, it's going to go up and down.
Right.
A little bit is fine. Drastic numbers, that's when you want to look at it. But I guess we really need to, as you know, YouTubers, vendors, folks in the hobby in general, just need to get a better understanding of what is stability versus you need to have a dead set glue number.
I mean, like, temperature is probably the easiest to relate with, you know, new hobbyists, because it's pretty clear cut that below 75 or above 82 are starting to get into the danger territory right there. Yeah. You don't want that number. That doesn't necessarily mean that 75 to 82 and back to 75 every day is good. It may not mean death, right? But it may not mean that things are growing. So a funny thing that I found, I actually got fish like 2.5, 3 weeks ago, and the alkalinity crept up in the tank by like 0.3 that day. All I did was drip the fish in, didn't do anything else. Just by introducing the fish, the corals knew what was happening. They felt something going on. There's some sort of hormone reaction, and they paused their growing. So, you know, I think a lot of us think of corals are either growing or they're dying, but they can be stagnant as well. The same way plants in the winter just hang out, right? So when you're having these fluctuations, it may just mean that you're losing growth rate. I think when you start this hobby, you want to keep fish alive, right? Then you want to get some corals, and usually, you know, you wisely buy inexpensive, easy to keep things, and you succeed in not killing them. That's usually the first victory, right? Then you want to get harder to keep corals, and then you get obsessed with trying to grow them faster. So there's a progression, I think, there. And there's a lot of middle ground between not killing things and getting things to grow. You know, you look at like the Masters, Sanjay, his tank just grows out of the top of the tank like in no time at all, and he's got things that he recommend, or that things that he does that would be the worst things to recommend to an entry-level hobbyist. You know, pound it with light, throw tons of food in. You know, all these things that for a new hobbyist would be a disaster.
Yeah, you would nuke your tank.
You would nuke the tank.
I tried that once. I was like, oh, I can do this. 6,500.
Right.
No.
Lots of everything, you know, and it works great for him. But you know, I think you need to look at the things that are critical to not extinguishing all life in your tank, or that you want to catch them to grow all the time. So I don't know that keeping things completely fixed and flat is going to promote things to grow faster. I don't think that we have all that information quite yet. I think actually a lot of these guys, you know, they grow corals for a living. It's what they pay their mortgage on. And I think a lot of them know a lot, but nobody knows everything. So I don't know that anybody has that answer. You know, is 8.5 glued at 8.5 really ideal, or is 8, you know, a little bit of a fluctuation? And then of course the whole conditioning always comes up kind of in conversation as well. But for me, you know, this is giving me all this information that I didn't have before. So it's great to have the information and be able to decide what to do with it. I think that's the most important thing.
Okay. Yeah, and that's going to help everybody in the hobby is to understand what's going on with your tank, to make an educated decision on how to react to it.
Yep.
Because a lot of times we have that knee-jerk reaction where it's, this coral died, I need to fix what's going on in the tank.
Right.
Maybe that coral wasn't happy.
Right.
That's a possibility.
Yep.
So being that this is now there, you can understand, okay, did I have an alk spike, or did something happen that caused
the alk spike?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's definitely a lot of cause and effect, and it's crazy to see how little things like the alkalinity consumption, I think, is directly related to how happy the corals are that day. You know, and so you can automatically see, you know, did your tank have a great day, or did it have an okay day, or did it have a really bad day, based on what happens there. So it's an expert level of understanding for sure.
That is true.
It really is.
I mean, you mentioned putting the fish in.
Yeah.
Change your alkalinity
I dripped 5 gallons of water out of the
right?
system. That's it. Nothing else. You know, and I put the fish in, and it wasn't a big change, but it went from, you know, 8.7 to 9. Okay. But I dosed the same amount, and I dosed the same amount the next day. So if a normal person without a Trident had just checked on Wednesday, dripped the fish in Thursday, and then checks on Sunday, he says my alk's going up. It's not. You know, so they would have, and now it would have been doing this. So you're like always chasing this. Alkalinity dosing prior to having anything like this is a total guess and check method. You write things down, you try to remember all the things that happen in between, and you take your best guess to throw a dart at the wall, and you see if you can get it closer, and you check again, and you check again.
What have I always said? And it's really not far from this.
Stability.
To do what? What do you need to do?
Oh, well, I mean,
document everything you do when you do it. If you're gonna do
what
this,
did you change
this.
Right,
if you started a new regimen, what time did you start? The date you start. This is just doing it out, you know, as far as this part of it, doing it for you, you know, as far as your parameters. And you should still document if you do a change of food or, you know, other things outside of that. But that's the same thing. So you could start, basically give yourself a graph, a chart. That's making a chart for you. Like, you're gonna be able to know, like, hey, did this coral just RT'd in because my doser kicked on and it created and won up a full DKH like he was having on his aquarium, and you know what I mean? That's a big stress level. Anything really at 1.4 DKH, anything beyond, like, you're right, you're teetering on that, making something go bad really quick. Literally.
And it's cool because, like, you know, normally when you're doing other stuff to the tank, like, you're not doing this stuff too. So, like, you change the carbon or drip a fish in, like, you would never check the alk to see if it had an effect. You wouldn't do that. Because you've already used your time to do something else, first of all. And two, it's overkill, right? But a lot of times, like, you're going to connect the dots on something that you may not have connected them on before. So, I mean, some of the obvious things, like Jim Welsh pointed out, you know, okay, you go in there and you start fragging stuff, or you bring new corals in, like, yeah, that's definitely going to take some sort of an effect. I think most new hobbyists would think, I brought new frags home, I need more alk. It's actually completely the opposite. You know, your corals are going to react in a, I don't know what's happening, I'm not sure I like it, I'm not going to grow today. So they can hibernate.
And that right there is mainly the reason I would love to have one of these, because if I add something in there, or if I make some changes, let's say I frag a coral or I add new corals in, you can then get the graph and the information showing what happened, what changed, what did my interaction with the tank due to
like
the stability.
Frag 1/4 or one quarter, or like when I was fragging like half the tank, and see that consumption, because I had a big spike in consumption when I fragged so much at one time, which people don't realize. When you do that many frags, what's it going to do to the parameters? Because guess what? Everything wants to heal.
Right.
Everything
This
goes
right
into
here,
regeneration.
you're going to be able to see, okay, hey, I can frag this many and only create this much of a spike or dip.
Yep.
I mean, it's awesome, man.
And you're in the big tank mentality, you know, like I think most hobbyists have a 100-gallon tank or less, and so these things they take a really big effect.
Really
big. And this is I run this on my LPS and softy tank as well, so the swings are a lot less severe compared to the other tank, but things definitely still happen. And those things, this is not an SPS tank only thing. This is all aquarium thing. So it's incredible to get so much information that, normally, like I said, I've never checked my out more than 20 times in a year, maybe, at tops.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big stretch.
Once on a great blue moon,
I checked a few days ago, and I was like, oh, everything looks fine.
Right.
Alk was a little low. I was like, okay.
And what time did you check it? It's crazy to see an hour what that changes on, even on my tank, right?
That's why I don't check it often, because I will be the one that looks at the numbers.
You'll be like, oh my God.
And say, oh shoot, it changed. 7.4, I need to be up to 8. And then I'll start making adjustments, come back the next day.
And now it's 8.4.
It's at 8.4, now you're coming back down.
Yeah, it's awesome to be able to make minor adjustments and see exactly within 6 hours what effect that's taking. So you can play it safe and make more frequent changes with less fear. That's if you're doing it even all by hand. So I think a lot of hobbyists are definitely going to see the changes that, like doing water changes on the tank, what that effect that takes on the alkalinity too.
It's a big one there.
I mean, there's a lot of question marks with check the alk before you do the water change, check the alk after the water change, and then probably you want to check it again 24 hours later. It's a lot of work.
And then the other thing, keep your hands out of the tank. How's that going to affect it? If I just go in there to do regular maintenance, I'm scraping the glass or whatever, what did that have an effect on it?
Yeah, so for me, it's definitely having a huge effect. Not scraping the glass is a big factor. I don't know if it's from the stuff that's on the glass getting to the corals and affecting the consumption, or if it's actually, the supplements that are stuck to the glass that I'm putting back into the tank. So I haven't really connected that dot yet, but something I would have never figured out, having not happened. So
nice. So yeah, man, I appreciate your time on it. When would you say you're probably going to get another batch of these out?
So there are no batches. Is the best way to explain it. It's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So we're building them every single day. They go out every day. Your platinum, diamond local retail stores aren't getting them. There are lists miles long at every place, so patience is a little bit of a virtue right now. The success rate of customers having them has been phenomenal, and that's something that we don't want to suffer. It's really in high demand. Honestly, it's unprecedented for an aquarium product. I can't remember any aquarium gear that was being bought or resold on a third market at or secondary market at all. I've seen that happen with fish, corals, whatever. I've never seen it with equipment. So obviously a lot of people want them. We're building them as fast as we can. So you just got to check in with your local store. Look, if you shop at your local store and you've been a loyal customer of theirs, you're going to get one from them. If you have never gone to your local store and you are an online shopper, then you're not going to get one from your local store. So
that's my gray area. I got a couple local stores, unfortunately, with what's been going on. They're taking a hit, and it's one of those things. But yeah, I'll definitely. I got a new build coming up, so I'm gonna have my eye on that, and I'll probably hit up Worldwide for one of those.
Yeah, I mean, they are available, like I said, every week. Bulk Reef Supply started taking lists. SolarAquarium.com is getting them. Marine Depot. All the major online outlets, the retail stores. This will subside at some point. I don't know what that point will be yet, but at some point this will subside. Look, it's out now. I've seen Rico at I don't know how many frag swaps this year, probably 10